Thank you for listening to this. My name is Nick Schaffer. I'm the Vice President of Sales for TVI MarketPro3 and UNOTIFI, and I'm thrilled to be on this podcast in a long overdue manner with Bruce Daugherty. Bruce is the president and owner of A.D.O Consulting Group, and Bruce and my careers have crossed paths at multiple points, and I have the utmost respect and appreciation for Bruce as a automotive retail mind, particularly focused in fixed operations, and he's been incredibly instrumental to my career and a mentor to me. So Bruce, I'm grateful for you, and I've been the beneficiary of a lot of knowledge sharing from you over the years. So part of the reason I say this is overdue was because I wanted to get you on one of these deals so that we could knowledge share with a bigger audience. So thank you for being on.
Thanks a lot, Nick, and ditto to you. We have worked together on many projects and rubbed elbows, and it's been a lot of fun. You have a wealth of knowledge, and I've worked with your company a lot in the past.
Appreciate that, sir. So for those that are listening to this that might not know you, would you mind telling us a quick commercial about your journey in auto retail?
Actually, a lot of people would probably be surprised to know this, but my first jobs in the business were in sales. Mm-hmm. Then eventually transitioned into fixed operations. Very quick, interesting story is I wanted to move to a particular area geographically, and I answered a blind ad. Jobs are hard to come by. I went down on a Saturday morning, and there was 40 guys standing in single file for one job. And I was fortunate enough to get that at a very prestigious dealership with multi-lines, Highline store. And so the fixed operations path was really started there. I had been in business of myself for a lot of years with automotive repair, so it was a natural fit. Eventually worked my way up through just about every kind of a job in an automotive dealership you could imagine. Then eventually managed multiple stores for the largest dealer in Kansas City at the time. I got a phone call one day from the Hendrick Automotive Group. They had acquired some stores in Kansas City, but I actually wanted to move to one of the coasts. And in a conversation with them, a week later, I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, making a deal. Moved to North Carolina and then worked for about 13 years with the Hendrick Automotive Group in Charlotte, Kansas City, California. Then joined eventually as Vice President of Sonic Automotive Group over California. That was really a huge responsibility with almost 30 car dealerships that I oversaw and was involved with intimately on a daily basis. Then as years passed, moved to San Diego, became the COO of Sunroad Automotive Group, who is the largest dealer group in San Diego County. I had always wanted to do consulting and started A.D.O Consulting Group. And a lot of people ask me what A.D.O stands for, and it stands for Another Daugherty Organization.
Love it. What motivated the transition from retail to consulting, Bruce?
Again, I think I had accomplished pretty much everything I wanted to do. I'd been a part owner with Rick Hendrick in his store for a lot of years. I had done executive management, dealt with manufacturers at the highest levels, and really enjoyed that, learned a lot. But I really wanted to take the opportunity through consulting and also executive placement and work with all the people I had developed coast to coast. Mm-hmm. My career was coast to coast. I had a tremendous bench of people that I trusted, and they also trusted me. I wanted to be able to place those people, and then also I wanted to be able to take all my experience and share it with dealers wherever and help them become much more profitable and solve their problems. And that's exactly what I've done. So I'm now on year 3, going on 4 with my own company, and I just love it.
That's great. That's an incredible mission for your company, Bruce. And I mean, having had a very close look under the hood, working with you together at the Hendrick Automotive Group and then working with you together again at the Sunroad Automotive Group, I mean, the dealers that have brought you on as a consultant are lucky to have you. Some of the greatest lessons I've learned from you, I learned when you told me a story. You're a fantastic storyteller. I love listening to your stories. So today I'm going to ask you to tell me a few stories. Can you think of a specific story where recently your consulting work significantly transformed a dealership's operations? Give us a little bit of backstory. Don't have to name names if you don't want to, but I'm sure there's a valuable lesson there.
Most of the people that come to me, for instance, are very interested if I can help them find a lot of money in expenses. Okay? I can tell you that I haven't gone into a single store yet and cut expenses or personnel whatsoever. What I do is usually say the reason why your expenses are out of line is your gross profits aren't there. If we get the gross here from here, your expenses will fall in line perfectly as a percentage the profits will grow. And that's a real eye-opener for most people. So what I do is simply, the first meeting revolves around this. I'll ask around 12 to 13 questions that are pretty similar for anyone. And I can draw a conclusion pretty quickly about what the need of the store is. And I'll tell them, based on this information, here's my projection for you. I have several stores that have, in the first calendar year, put on 1.2 to 1.5 million more dollars in gross profit easily. And of course, a lot of that drops to the bottom line.
For sure.
And that's a real attention getter for a dealer when you go, hey, I'm very conservatively, if I think it's going to be $1.5 million, I'll say $1 million. If I think it's going to be $1 million, I'll say 800,000. Always try to underpromise and overdeliver. And when you do, then it opens the floodgates for tell us more, give us some more ideas. The other part is that I share with them that these are not going to be an experiment at your store. In other words, the only thing I'm going to bring to you are time-tested policies, procedures, and ideas that have worked coast to coast in all the stores that I've touched. No experiment at your store. And I also rarely give an opinion on employees. What I do is say, here's what I would do operationally. Here's what I would do with planning. Here's what I would do with daily operations. It's going to be up to you. I'm only going to be here 1 or 2 days a month and available by phone or Zoom. But if you do these things, XYZ will translate into $1 million more. And when you do that, and that's a very typical case scenario, roughly the first year around $1 million to $1.5 million, and there's several of those that I could go into. Different franchises, different types of operations, but it's some of it's low-hanging fruit, some of it's just brand new ideas they've never heard before, but they've worked, you know.
So I love that answer, Bruce. I'm very passionate that there's genius in there's success found in executing the fundamentals, right? And on our end of things at MarketPro3, when we're working with a dealer who has a negative growth trend, they're not making the profits that they want, very commonly that operator, in my experience anyways, that operator wants something new, shiny, sexy, outside the box. They want to be the person that gets to reinvent the wheel. And we take the exact same approach that you do, which is why this is resonating with me so much. Usually if the results aren't where they need to be, it's because we're failing to execute the fundamentals properly. So let's make sure that the fundamentals are in place. And once the fundamentals are in place and we're blocking well and we're tackling well, we're handing the ball off well, then we can throw a post route, right? But we need to make sure those fundamentals are in place first.
Well, I think this is also another key too, is that in all of the stores that I've touched, which is across the United States, east to west and everything in between, that so far the ideas and the policies and procedures have made the changes work without one key person being eliminated, terminated. The conversations, the trust, the development of those people has resulted in great results with the same crowd that they already had. And I think that that really surprises a lot of dealers. They'll look at you after a couple of months and they'll go, I had no idea that, I'm just throwing out a fictitious name, that Frank or Bob or Jose was capable of these types of numbers. And my answer to that is, hey, guess what? It was always there. All they needed was a little direction and some different ways to get there. But the business was always there.
In your experience, Bruce, what qualities are just essential for an effective leader to have in automotive?
You got to have the knowledge and the experience, and then you've got to be effective. You've also got to have the trust of the people that you do lead. They have to see you as a fair leader. I've always called it the more than fair policy, because whenever I made a very tough decision, and I mean, that's what I've always hated and struggled with the most in retail, is when you either have to really get into a disciplinary situation or actually term somebody, which I've always had super low turnover. But you struggle with that and you don't want to do it, but these situations do come up. And when you do make that decision, if you've always been a more than fair leader, the rest of the crew will say, wow, Nick is more than fair all the time. Bruce is more than fair all the time. And they back up the decision, and they get on with the daily dilemma of handling business instead of, I've seen situations where dealers and leaders in other businesses can't be more than fair, and they just make a lot of tough decisions. And everybody goes, I don't know if I want to work here anymore.
Sure.
They're not fair. Over communication and early correction saves a lot of terminations, and then that's perceived as more than fair.
Yep, I agree. And the more than fair approach, Bruce, in my experience, when that is part of the practice and it's consistently part of the practice, it becomes a foundational pillar of the culture of the organization. I mean, it might not be the value that's on the poster in the break room, but it's the part of the culture that every employee feels and appreciates when they come to work every day.
Agree. And I think that there's another part of great leadership, which is you got to back up your employees. You got to stand with them. And you've got to make sure that they perceive that you're going to have their back when they need it. It's not easy being in retail. It's very tough.
Amen. Trust goes a long way.
So we got everybody pulling at us from every direction, internally, externally. And the worst thing that can happen as a leader is if you chop people off at the ankles all the time and you don't have their back and you make decisions that are irrational, and they go, yeah, I don't trust that guy. He doesn't have our back. Now I'm high on accountability, but we do need to make sure that we support our personnel and they understand that we're going to have their back.
Having managed service departments before, although there may be some day-to-day frustrations and Johnny didn't execute this process properly, in my experience, like 98% of people get up every morning, put their pants on the same way, and go to work with the intention of doing their level best job. I have a lot of benefit of the doubt in people that very few people get up and say, I'm going to go to work and be bad at this today. I don't think anybody does that. So if anybody's doing something that's different than what we would expect as their leader, they don't know that they're doing something different than what we expect as their leader. So we owe it to them to approach them in a coaching and servant leadership fashion and show them the way. And once isn't enough. It usually requires a lot of repetition. Would you agree?
Totally agree. And I would also say that it is mind-blowing how many people in my career that have been mediocre or poor performers, when given the proper resources and the right training, haven't come along and done much better, and sometimes become top tier 1 leaders in the group. They just didn't, nobody's ever showed it to them before. I think this is very important to address your question about daily management. Early in my career, I noticed that the biggest problem with the low performing service advisors was that they didn't have confidence when they pitched the work. So I developed a selling system, and now there's all kinds of selling systems, but the selling system I developed is still used by a lot of people. It may have morphed electronically, but all we did was show them how to approach the customer, especially on the big tickets. And this is what creates good high RO averages, is some people know how to sell the big tickets. If a technician looks a car over and he feels confident that his advisor will sell the work, he has a tendency to write down everything. Then if, a ticket comes back to the advisor to sell and it's got $7,000 worth of work, those advisors that lock up are the ones that lack confidence, and they've never understood how to approach the customer in a systematically structured way. Here's what you came in for. Here's what we noticed that would be maintenance. Here's what's emergency. I usually break it down to 4 categories, and the last one being cosmetic. Then we teach them to sell it the exact same way every single time without fail, no exceptions. And I've seen very poor performers go right to the top of the group because they finally somebody showed them how to do it and present it with confidence instead of could be, should be, I think, I might. Here's what happens with low performing advisors. They don't attempt to sell the work in the first place. So if you want to know who the poor performing advisors are in a group, go ask the technicians. They'll say, Bob and Frank sell everything. The rest of them cherry pick what they want to sell. They go, that guy's not going to want that. And that's what causes this problem. So if you teach people how to be confident in their approach in a structured, systematic way to sell, just like we would in a new and used car sales department. Great sales departments in new and used usually have a super structured way they work through the desk. But yet, who sells more work than anybody in the store? An advisor. And we don't have a selling system for them. So anyway, that is the greatest advice I can give to everybody. Manage the living heck out of your service drive. Have a service selling system. And make sure that it's done the same way every single time. And gain confidence in your performers. And you'll see some RO averages that you'll never believe were possible.
I love it. For that young leader that's looking for advice, if they were to ask you what resources or professional development opportunities they should pursue, what would you recommend?
Well, especially in this day and age, I've always had a saying that accountants will inherit the earth. If you don't know your numbers, if you don't understand financials, teach yourself a financial statement or find people that will share them with you. Get advice to understand the mathematics of the business, not just the operations of the business. If you're highly successful in operations and you get a good dose of understanding accounting and you understand a financial statement, it's like a cork underwater. You can't hold it down. You will win. You will pop to the surface. People will recognize you and you will be brought along. Now, I worked for a guy for a lot of years running the largest group in Kansas City that wouldn't share a thing with me. I built my own financial statements that weren't exactly accurate, but I self-taught. And then I went and sat with a Harvard graduate that would spend time with me. He was nice enough to do it. And he taught me how to really understand a financial statement. You know who that guy was? My father. But I had to ask.
Yes, you did.
Learn the numbers, know your numbers. My greatest frustration when I go into a store now, or when I was in the past overseeing multiple dealerships and all kinds of departments, is I would walk up to people that were the leaders of the departments of the stores, and I'd say, what's your gross profit on your cars month to date? And what's your finance number? What's your hours per hour in your service department? And they'd go, I don't know, I'll have to look it up. You mean you don't know that? You're the leader of the department. You should know where you are on your numbers every day. And you should know the answer to the nth degree. I've had Rick Hendrick I've had Bruton Smith. I've had tremendous owners, and those are all great people, by the way. I think Rick Hendrick's one of the greatest people I ever met in my life. He runs an unbelievable organization. But when he asked me a question, I had an accurate answer. And I'll end this about the leadership thing. I went and did a good job, did a great job for Rick, and I was proud of the job I did. And I had the answers, and I was getting the results. And this is what will happen if you have the results and you have the answers and you're in an organization. They're hungry for people that can do those two things, know how to win and understand the numbers. And one day he walked up to me. I haven't told this story to too many people ever in my career, but I'm going to tell it now because he's a great guy. I'd only been there about 4 or 5 months. I was pushing the mortar out of the walls. Okay, record. And he walked up. I felt a presence behind me, and I turned around and I said, "Mr. Hendrick," I said, "what can I do for you?" He said, "What is it that you want?" And I said, "Unlimited opportunity." And I think you know, Nick, as well as anybody, what happened from my career after that. But there are other great dealers and other owners like Rick out there. He's not the only one. But if you excel and you understand the numbers, you're going to rise to the surface. You're going to do well. You're going to have a big career.
But from our perspective, we're feeling a big push right now from dealers, whether it's a single franchise owner or big auto groups. There's a big push right now for budget cuts as these stores wrap up 2025. Are you experiencing the same? If so, does the push feel harder than in recent years? And what's your take?
Sort of a couple answers to this. Yeah, I'm seeing and hearing that around the United States in general. I am not a believer in significant budget cuts, especially in marketing. However, I take a completely different approach that during tough times, the easiest time to take share is when everybody else is cutting budgets, and if you remain consistent or more targeted and specific, actually increase, you'll pull share, whether it's a service department, whether it's a sales department, whatever. It's easy to cut, but you'll find out that you have very short-term results. Things will look better immediately. That seems very tangible. But what happens in 90 days when the market conditions come back? You've either cut people or you've lost your marketing presence. You have to start and crank up all over hiring people, deciding we got to get back into marketing. Maybe you fired 2 or 3 vendors that were strategic, and you got to go back to them on bended knee and say, "Hey, we want back in." Well, in some of those cases, those are proprietary markets. We only had one dealer in the market. You were it. We've already assigned it to someone else. Then you're lost. I am not a believer in ever cutting budgets in the fourth quarter. You want to always remain at least the same, but I tend to power up even in a down market. And then it's up to you as the leader of your store and your departments to what? Make hay with the sunshine you've got. You've got to be effective once the lead comes in, whether it's a walk-in, telephone, or an email. You got to do a good job with it. You got to do a great job. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of talk with that, and here's why. So this is the second part of it. The dealers enjoyed so many profits during COVID, and it was automatic for the car business in particular.
It was the gold rush.
It was unbelievable. Then you knew what was going to happen, and here we are today. Profits are not the same for most people, and instead of coming up with planning to gain share, to refine marketing, be more effective, people are saying, cut 10% of the workforce. Let's put a stop on hiring processes without approval from the president or the COO. GMs are chopped off at the ankles. That's the worst thing that can happen when GMs and department managers who know what they need to operate every day have to get in line for a decision to hire key personnel. So I'm just not a guy that has ever operated that way. And with my current dealer group, I have not suggested a single cut. In fact, we're powering up. And guess what's happened to the profits? Through the roof.
I mean, what do you see shaping the future of the automotive industry, and particularly in fixed operations? And you can pick whatever time frame you want, the next 12 months, the next 5 years. What do you see on the horizon?
Well, in the short term, I don't see a lot of significant change. Mobility, everybody's trying to figure that one out. What I would tell you with mobility services, that if you don't get into it in a big way, don't get into it at all. You've really got to overcommit. For the people that are killing it with mobility, they don't have a van or two, they've got 10 or 15, and they're really serving the client. That's the only real big trend I see right now. Long term, down the road, it won't matter to me what's going on 20 years from now. But here's the thing, we all have to remember this. The forecast that the franchise dealer or that the service departments and sales departments would be replaced, they've been saying that for 35, 40 years, and it hasn't happened yet. Dealers are very resilient. They find ways to respond, look things over carefully, and make sure that the investment in people and equipment and the things that is required to address the change will happen. I have faith that that will continue to happen. I think that we're all smart enough in the car business to figure it out as it goes. I think that on the EV front, there's been a tremendous overcommit to EVs, and it's very reminiscent of diesels. Mm-hmm. I can remember being in the business when diesels were it was forecasted to overtake the entire industry, and it was a major flop. Now, there's a niche for it, and I think that EVs will be a larger niche than diesels. There's a place for it, and it may even still grow a little bit. But you're already seeing companies going, wait a second, we're quitting EVs. We're getting out of it. Here's the point of what I'm saying. As long as there's a lot of oil in the ground, and there is, and they continue to find more of it. A week ago, I read they found the largest reserves in the world, more than they've ever seen before. As long as there's good supplies of oil, internal combustion engines will not go away. And we're going to continue to see the same needs in our service department on a grand scale with some niches maybe. I will give kudos to Toyota. The smartest thing that I've ever seen is that they've developed hybrids that never require charging but are electric and gas. I run them every chance I get. You get a Camry EV hybrid, and it's fast, it's high gas mileage, fun to drive, and simplistic. Mm-hmm. So in the fixed operations side, I know we'll probably talk about sales in a minute, but I think we're all very safe and secure with what we have, and we need to continue to market, push, grow technicians, and plan on making our departments bigger. Biggest mistake I see with dealers right now, they sell a lot of cars and then they wonder why the people don't come back. Well, they don't continue to expand ours or their service department. Why? They're out there. Mm-hmm. Most of the dealers I call on have 25,000 active customers, and they wonder why they don't come back. We are not accommodating those customers. That's the biggest problem we have.